There's a lot of games in my Steam backlog that I still haven't played. Maybe some time that I played one of them at least. Um, Nitty Streamer Overload looks nice. Let's do that.
Indie games are pretty cool. I mean, I would hope so considering the fact that a good chunk of the games that I've been talking about have been indie games. I look at the people that constantly take the time to cover bad games almost exclusively and tears of joy start rolling down my eyes. Thank God I'm not living like you. I would have started breaking it down eons ago. Imagine you have to play games for a living, but the only thing that you can play is Balan Wonderworld and licensed games made for toddlers. Brother, I would have started Third Impact right then and there. There isn't really any common theme with the games that I chose for this video. It's not like they all came out around the same time, nor are they batshit insane or potential triggers for epileptic attacks. These are just 4 really good games that you need to try. By the way, subscribe because I am trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so hit the button, abuse the bell, and summon all your friends and family to do the same.
Dude, what the fuck did I just play?
Needy Girl Overdose or Needy Streamer Overload, depending on where you live, is a visual novel / psychological horror game in which you try to help your girlfriend reach 1 million subs in 30 days. So first off, slow down, Buster! Let's have some serious dialogues about this. The level of Delulu is over 9,000. Most English-speaking YouTubers in the world to fucking struggle with getting like 10k in a month. Let alone 100k, you wanna get to 1,000,000? Unless you got the Nijisanji Fame Potion, Hololive Motion, or the ability to create some commotion, people are not gonna spawn like that. Now, that isn't the only difficult part of the game. See, the streaming part is really just 30% of the battle. The other 70 is this wreck of a person. To put it simply, can you fix her? No! Ame is a shot-in, kind of pathetic, depressive, manic, self-harming, obsessive, probably drug-addicted, more than likely sex-addicted, narcissistic, foul-mouthed, toxic, and codependent person that can't accomplish jack shit without her boyfriend telling her what to do at each point during the day. I didn't even make most of that up, by the way. That's just what she tells you during the first couple of minutes of the game. But don't worry, those are just words! There is one thing that she has for sure, though. She's hot, which really makes up for basically everything. That controlling every aspect of her life will be what makes the core gameplay, as you guide her through her 30-day journey, telling Ame what to do while successfully managing her emotions to make sure that she doesn't do anything rash. The range can go from her having breakdowns on stream to getting a college education by being too happy and deciding to quit streaming. You heard it here yourself, folks? Streaming is for the mentally ill. If I have to give it some sort of comparison for the average folk to understand, it's like the real world system in the Persona games, only you don't engage in crazy battles using your strong willpower as the second half of the game. I mean, having dates, playing games, watching Netflix, doom scrolling Twitter and forums, my brother in Christ, you can just up and lick her down. This I got the ending where she quits streaming and goes back to college, by the way. I guess just fucked her depression away. The game is pretty fun and a very unique experience, all things considered. The time management was oddly enough an element that I enjoyed in the Persona series, so trying my best to manage the streamer lifestyle was pretty fun. The dialogue and interactions were also really well written. I was glancing at the chat for Kanjo's streams and they were telling her to flash a tit. I damn near had tears in my eye. I thought this was a real YouTube chat. We are so bad! You ever seen a VTuber and fuck your secret lover only to hop on Twitter, tell the world on your main that you are for the world? You ever been a VTuber and fuck your secret lover only to hop on Twitter, tell the world on your main that you are for the whole world, while in your alt you say something like, I got raw dog, doggy style, full Nelson, cowgirl for 10 hours straight. I am so fucking addicted to Pichon. Because you can see that happen in this game. The graphics were actually really good. The sprite art was really well made. All the little like graphics and like pop-ups that appear when you travel to different places, do different events. It's all really detailed. But the main standout to me was the music, because I was not expecting the soundtrack to be this good. My only problem is that it can be a bit too immersive. Listening to this track about to make me have a breakdown too. Overall, the game is pretty damn good, and I'm pretty sure it's on consoles too, so if you want to experience it, then you got a lot of options. Hyper Light Drifter is a game that I have heard much about, mainly that it was good. And I mean, fuck, they were right. What do you want me to say? What I won't say, however, is the story of the game. Because to be entirely frank, I have no idea what the story of the game was about. After carefully perusing the opening cutscene, I could discern that we got infected with something, and that we're tasked with going to these 4 places, activating the 4 magical things, and beating the bad guy at the end. I did the best that I could to understand the story. A common complaint that I've seen from the game is its method of storytelling, as it uses the ideology of Souls-like games as it tells the story of its world mostly through the environment. whatever characters you come across most often talk to you with these little images, and in the rare occasion where they do talk, it's often in a language that is certifiably not English. I personally don't mind, right? I've played my fair share of Souls games, and while this isn't my ideal way of storytelling, I do believe that it is a very strong and tested method of telling a story that, if anything, gives a lot of longevity to games like this, having players theorize and talk about your games weeks and months after the game comes out. It's definitely a matter of preference. Some people definitely won't like that the story is told through this method, and that's simply how it is, you know? Regardless though, the thing that matters the most to me is the gameplay. I feel like I should start making a tally for all the times that I say those words in that exact sequence, like in one of my videos, because I'm sure that by this point, there's gotta be at least one person that's ready to rock my shit for repeating the phrase so much. I'm pretty sure you can look at every single one of my videos, at least like fucking like 7 out of 10 times I'm gonna say that phrase at some point. It's a bad habit at this point. The game is an action game with a heavy focus on combat and movement as you travel to the 4 lands and collect all the keys required to activate the pillars. You're gonna solve puzzles, fight enemies, and search a shit ton of walkthroughs, because I bet 2 cents your ass ain't beating this game blind. Now we could just make the argument that I'm bad at the game. That argument would be correct, but I'm gonna bitch anyways. It feels like often in the game, there are sections that I just could not get past without looking up a guide, which isn't helped by the fact that the navigation of this world is really confusing, as the map is a suggestion rather than an indication. The underground map makes me angry. I know that maps cannot talk, but this feels like a giant middle finger to my face. The combat was actually really solid though. There's an emphasis on both close and range combat, as you have a gun and a sword as your main weapons. Your main character is quite agile in its movement. He can quickly move in and out of harm's way, and that is often encouraged as you regain your bullets faster by doing physical attacks. As the game progresses, you also unlock more moves and guns that will allow you to push through the increasingly more challenging areas of the game, which also serve as a way to spice up the combat. By the end of the game, the combat is definitely a standout, with so many options for you to choose and use against the opponents that it will more than likely never grow stale. Despite the many options though, fighting is never easy. While the Drifter is strong, the enemies can swing you like a ragdoll if you walked into the room thinking you could just slap everyone with your massive cock. The enemies attack fast, and more than that, there aren't big periods of invulnerability when you get hurt, on top of having many moves that stun the player for quite a bit once you get hit by them, so reckless playing could and will mess you up. Now it isn't as difficult as a Souls game. You're not gonna see a boss approach and have their massive aura hitbox send you 1,000 miles away, but combat is still dynamic, challenging, and more than anything, entertaining. The thing that mostly stands out to me, however, is the atmosphere of the game. While the combat, exploration, and lore aspects of the game are all incredible aspects to the experience, it is something that I have seen before and often, at least personally, with more interesting executions, but the atmosphere is something that kept pulling me into the game more and more. There's a serene, post-apocalyptic feel to the game that makes a lot of the different areas of the experience leave an impression on the player, often helped by the incredible pixel art of the game. I mean, this shit is just absolutely beautiful. The post-apocalyptic aesthetic is one that I'm a big fan of, especially when it is very subdued. I'm just a big fan of juxtaposition and imagery and cinematography and audio and stuff like that. Like having super happy songs play in pant-shitting scenarios, like that can fissure in your brain as 2 different things unfold at once, really helps make an impression. And I feel like Hyper Light Drifter does that in a really good way. Hyper Light Drifter is a really good game. I feel like nowadays there can be aspects that don't feel quite as good as a result of the passage of time. The game turns 10 years old next year. What the fuck? 2016 was almost 10 years ago. What the fuck? Yeah, the game is good or whatever. I'm gonna look at a corner of my room for a bit. The 3D platforming scene is one that for the last decade has been in a very unique, kinda dead, kinda not spot. In 2017, it looked like shit was more back than ever, with Mario Odyssey, Crash Insane Trilogy ahead in time. Hell, Yooka-Laylee was around the same time, I'm pretty sure. The genre had a lot of momentum, and when it looked like it was going somewhere, 3D platformers just shut the kitchen down for a bunch of years to no avail. I mean, it's not like there weren't any platformers whatsoever. I'm sure there were some neat standouts here and there, but like, fuck, it felt like there had to be some pretty big waiting periods for stuff to start happening. However, once it did start happening, it started happening. Once the 2020s rolled around, it finally felt like platformers were back on the menu. Many through indie games, obviously, and one of the main standout examples for me was definitely Demon Turf. You ever wanted to conquer hell after a Demon King appear in your dreams once? Well, you may have some unresolved anger issues, but you may also be about to be part of a really solid game. I don't know why I emphasize the B like that. From barren wastelands to super cities full of technology and traffic, I guess I managed to fit Florida drivers in here somehow. Your objective is to hop on different levels and reach the end. When I first saw the game, I was originally expecting a level structure more similar to what Mario's catalog had to offer. Big open playgrounds with multiple objectives for the player to do and advance through the game. But once you start playing through the adventure, you quickly realize that the journey is closer to a combination of the openness of Mario levels with the linearity of level-based base games. Every stage has the same objective of reaching the end, and while there are other things that you can do in the stages, the end goal always stays the same. While the progression is linear though, where the openness comes in is in the fact that how you reach the end of the levels is where you can start expressing yourself through the movement. I mean dude, movement in this game is low-key kinda snazzy. The player has a lot of freedom when controlling the character, and there are a bunch of moves for you to play around with. What makes a lot of 3D platformers of this style so good is simply how they allow you to approach different situations. If the game creates an incredibly fun gameplay style, chances are you're gonna enjoy yourself in almost any scenario regardless of the quality of the game. I mean fucking take a look at Mario 64 and Sunshine. There are so many asinine levels in those games and most people still have a grand old time because those games have Mario, which is such a delightful, joyous character to play as. Beebs is exactly that type of character. She has so many movement options that simply running around with the character is a delight. Half of the fun in the game is simply seeing what strings of movement you can successfully pull off to get to where you need to be. And when you nail everything down, it feels absolutely incredible. The levels were also quite intriguing in their approach. The gimmicks in each level serve as good distinctions between other levels from the same world. When exploring a beach world, I'll probably end up remembering the pollution level quite a lot, thank you for asking. The game also has a checkpoint mechanic in which the player can decide where to place a checkpoint, a good double-edged sword. Do you believe that now is the best time to play it safe, or do you think that your cock is simply that big that you'll get through here no problem? The worst that I can say about most of these levels is that most of these levels, well not most, more like some of these levels went on for a little longer than I would have liked. It's a big reason for why I like the nighttime levels a little bit more, the levels that you unlock after completing each world and defeating the main boss. Most of these levels are shorter, more compact, and often feature completely different level design that takes advantage of the gadgets that you collect through the game. But more importantly, too, I'm not a big fan of the combat in this game. Fighting enemies is kind of like sumo in the sense that you have to kick them off the ring in one way or another. But this aspect of the game doesn't really evolve though. It stays mostly the same as the beginning of the game, which was already a very slow combat system which I wasn't too invested in. My main problem is simply the fact that like, I handle every situation the same way. It's not a combat-centric game, so I'm not gonna bust out a bunch of combos, nor is it a game with an expansive cast of bad guys that require different approaches. So you just head into each fight with a fucking we ball mentality where you're just kind of fighting like, push the enemy, and it's done. The graphics were pretty good though. I didn't really know where to mention it, so I just decided that now was the best time. The game has an unusual visual style, with full environments being 3D while the characters are 2D. That's nothing uncommon, but you normally see this in games where the limitations is 2 axis and not 3. It gives the game a really strong visual identity though, and most importantly, it never really hinders with the gameplay. Making jumps and moving around was never really an issue with the visual style, as it was pretty well handled, and overall, I'll go as far as to say that the visuals are great, and since we're here, I might as well say that the game itself is great. When it comes to 3D platformers, I definitely have others that I like more, but from beginning to end, Demon Turf was an unflinching, fun journey that knew very well what it wanted to be and seized that opportunity without any problems. Action-packed, dynamic, and fun. Demon Turf is an absolute blast and I absolutely recommend it. The original Slime Rancher is one of my favorite games of all time. You can literally head into one of my older videos and check me on that statement. I made a 20-minute glazing bonanza for a game all about taking care of cute slime balls. I was low-key rewatching the video because sometimes you gotta remember your humble beginnings, right? And I am in utter disbelief because I was never using a vocabulary as sophisticated as this before the Slime Rancher video. Who is this guy? Why was I so eloquent with it? You can watch the video if you want. I've never been one to post to people watching my older catalog of videos, but I like to think that I've improved drastically on my video quality. If nothing, at least my energy is a lot better from what I had back then. Maybe I should just remake my videos from 2022 and 2021. That could be a fun time. Oh yeah, but back to Slime Rancher 2. At its core, the Slime Rancher games are open world games in which you explore the different set of wacky cartoon landscapes and collect resources and slimes to create the ultimate money-making ranch. Oftentimes with a side of wild-ass storytelling and intergalactic, interdimensional portals. Don't ask me, man, just play the games for yourself. In the case of Slime Rancher 2, sometime following the events of the first game, Beatrix, that's the name of the MC by the way, there's a whole cast of characters in this game, I just figured that you like to know now. They don't really matter much to the story of this game particularly, but just remember that they're here. Anyways, Beatrix is suddenly approached by a boat that takes her to the Rainbow Isles, a completely undiscovered part of the Far Far Range, which becomes her center of operations for this game. When it comes to the gameplay of Slime Rancher 2, the main loop, like many other aspects of the game, will stay relatively similar to the first experience, meaning that it mainly consists of you running around the different areas, exploring and uncovering secrets, as well as getting new materials for you to bring back to the ranch for new upgrades, which in turn allow you to explore and find bigger and better upgrades and resources. The game still features many of the elements that people loved about Slime Rancher 1, which immediately makes this game a really good game. The freedom that the previous game gave the players is still very much present, with the player being able to explore every place imaginable at any point in the game. And more than that, the exploration is still just as fun as a result of the movement that is still really well made. Running and flying around the environments is something that becomes incredibly relaxing as you get lost in the sauce and immerse yourself in the wonderful experience. This is one of those games that you can just play for the vibes. I mean, like rainy weather, playlist in the background, the whole 9 yards. As a sequel to what I consider one of my favorite games of all time, the game does a great job at keeping the core of the game intact, which allows it to be an incredibly good game by default as I've mentioned previously, but it is also quite possibly the biggest downfall of the game. Something that I had seen while perusing the reviews for the game is a shared criticism that the game is too similar to Slime Rancher 1 at its core, which is a sentiment that I do definitely have to agree on. I have a couple of issues with Slime Rancher 2, and by a couple I mean two. Issues that on their own aren't too major, but combined result in an experience that, while good, I would consider a bit of a step down from what the previous entry had to offer, and one of those issues is the fact that it doesn't change enough about the main gameplay loop. While it is great that veterans can just hop into the game and have a blast, it's also true that there are no new surprises that await the player because they're gonna be approaching the game the same damn way that they were in Slime Rancher 1. Tears of the Kingdom is a sequel to Breath of the Wild. It controls the same and has the same base map for Hyrule, but the gameplay changes immensely to compensate for those similarities. Can I create torture kick machines in Breath of the Wild, motherfucker? To give another example, Super Mario Galaxy 2, while having the same base controls and ideas, distinguishes itself through many new gameplay mechanics. I can keep naming other games, like I think you get the fucking point. Slime Rancher 2 stagnates on its changes to the gameplay style, and the couple of things that it changed from the first game are low-key worse? One of my favorite aspects about the first Slime Rancher is the flow of the game, as it never felt like you weren't progressing in some way, shape, or form. You were constantly getting money, which was then used for upgrades for Beatrix or the ranch, which allow you to get more upgrades, which made it easier to traverse the world. Slime Rancher 2, on the other hand, dropkicks the pacing, breaks its back, and forces it to age 50 years. The experience in general feels a lot slower in comparison to its predecessor, where you quickly gain access to the new areas that you can explore. Getting the movement and exploration upgrades feels a lot slower and high-key more tedious as well. Getting the many upgrades revolves around the material system, something which was already a thing in the first game, but that only resulted in stuff that was more inconsequential than anything, as you could perfectly go most of the game without the items that you could have crafted. In this game, however, it is a more required element of the adventure, which is extra tedious because many of these materials are placed in specific locations through the map which have a cooldown before reappearing, meaning that, in a very weird way, your progression is sort of controlled by the game and not by the player. These two are really my biggest problems with the game, and while the list of problems are definitely really small, what these two result in is an experience that feels slower and a lot less appealing for someone who has already played the first game. I'm playing an experience that feels almost the same as Slime Rancher 1 with the same highs, but getting to those highs requires me getting through a slower and more tedious process along the way. Don't let my criticisms distract you from the fact that this is still an incredible game though. There is a reason for why I placed this in a video titled 4 great indie games that you need to play, and it's because despite everything, I do believe this game is still a wonderful time. I had a blast playing it. I just think that there are some things that, if improved, could make the game even better than Slime Rancher 1, and I do think that there are a lot of things that the game does a lot better than the first game as well. I like the way in which the story was told in the first game, and more than that, how all the main ranch buddies, I guess you could call them, had their own stories to tell, but I also like just as much the more direct approach to the story of 2 alongside the mystery of the Rainbow Isles. It felt like they made a big effort to put the story in the forefront of the game, and they did a really good job at doing that. More than that though, the game is absolutely stunning, with a visual style that never fails to leave me in awe as I take the time to explore the world of the game. The increased graphical prowess coupled with the already strong art style of the series resulted in a game that is constantly delivering beautiful landscapes. There was barely a moment, if any, in which I didn't think that the game looked great at its worst. Furthermore, the different areas are a lot more interesting to me than they were in the first game, and they were really pretty good, mind you. The second game greatly improves on this aspect, creating multiple areas which are masterfully crafted and are simply pretty good overall. Slime Rancher 2 is really good overall. I want to make that as clear as I possibly can. The game is good, really good. It's just that it still has things to work on, which, to be fair, I'm sure that they'll improve on. The game is still in early access, I'm pretty sure. So there's still time to make a lot of improvements, but for now, that's just what my opinion of the game is. And those were all the indie games that I wanted to talk about today. For these videos, I keep trying to reach a sort of balance on the type of games that I showcase because I figured that would be more interesting than me simply talking about five fucking roguelikes per video. But obviously, my ass is just human, and I'm not gonna know every indie game. My ass is just human, and I'm not gonna know every indie game under the sun. So if you have any recommendations, then by all means, throw them my way. I'll probably have another video like this soon, but before that, I'm gonna do some other video ideas that I still need to iron out. And so, I'll be back soon. I'll be back. Take that as a threat. Well, that's all the time that I've had for today. I'm just a random stranger man on the internet, but hey, just call me Pseudo.